Hi and welcome back to The Books Are Everywhere. So today I'm going to attempt to film and show you my March wrap up. I actually ended up reading 16 books in March, which is insane, and I think it's definitely the most I've read in a month this year so far. I think I might have read 14 in January, but yeah, I read 16 in March, so I can't promise that this is not going to be utterly chaotic, because I've got a lot of books to get through. I've got 2 piles right here, and that's not even all of them. But anyway, we're going to try and start going through the books that I read in March. So, the first one I read in March, or I finished in March because I did start it in February, but this was Life and Death by Stephanie Meyer. This is the Twilight reimagination, and this was atrocious. I don't usually do videos about books that I don't really do review videos, but this one I did do a ranty review for. If you want to check that out, I will put it down below and it is on my channel. I gave this one 1 star. This was awful. I won't say anything more because I will let you go and watch the video because I will articulate my thoughts a lot better over there. The next one was a completely different story, and that was Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I absolutely loved this book, and this got 5 stars from me. It just had such a comforting feeling to it, and I loved reading about the girls. But I did find out that this doesn't have the full story in, and there is a second component to the book that is usually in the Little Women books but wasn't in mine, so I will talk about that one in a bit because I read that one later on in the month. So the next book was King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard, and this one is the 3rd book in the Red Queen series, and I read this one over 24 days, so I read this throughout the month on audiobook while I was driving and running and things like that. So I did enjoy this one more than I enjoyed the second one, which just wasn't quite as good for me. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I would definitely recommend this series, and I'm going to be going on to Warstorm next. And the next book I read was Serious Moonlight by Jen Bennett. I was so excited for this book because I love Jen Bennett's work, and this one definitely didn't let me down. This ended up as a 4.5 stars for me. Really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to read the next, well, her last book that I haven't read, which is Starry Eyes. Yeah, this one was really enjoyable. I would definitely recommend it if you like a contemporary kind of romance with a twist, because the main characters in this also try and solve mysteries, which I really enjoyed. And the next one I read, I've actually passed on to my lovely friend Courtney, so I don't have my copy anymore, but that is Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I did enjoy this one. I didn't really know what to expect from it, but I just knew it was super hyped. So I did enjoy it, but it did let me down in places. And this is about 2 guys, one of which is the son of the President of America and one of which is the son of the royal family in the UK, and they have a love-hate relationship, and it's basically like hate to love, enemies to lovers romance. I did enjoy it. I gave this one 3.5 stars, but I thought Courtney would enjoy it more, so I passed it on to her. And the next book I read, as I mentioned with Little Women, was Good Wives. So I borrowed a copy off my boyfriend which had both Little Women and Good Wives in, like most of them do. I just found out at the end of mine that mine didn't contain the second part of Little Women, so this was really weird, but I did really enjoy Good Wives. This follows the girls 3 years after Little Women, when they're kind of growing up and getting married and things like that, hence the title. So I did enjoy this, but it did lose some of the innocence that they had in Little Women, just because they are growing up and exploring more of the world. But that's kind of what I loved about Little Women, so this one got 4 out of 5 stars from me. And the next one I read was an absolute beast, and that is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. I absolutely loved this book. I read this one as part of Becca's Bookoplathon, and the next 7 or 8 books that I read were part of that Bookoplathon over the weekend. This is a chunky beast, but I really enjoyed it. This follows Nesta, who is the sister of Feyre in the ACOTAR series, the Court of Thorns and Roses series. So this does carry on after the events of the ACOTAR trilogy, or there is a novella as well, but mainly the trilogy, and this focuses on Nesta and Cassian. I did really enjoy it. I did find that the romance overtook the plot in places, so this one got not quite 5 stars, but I did love it. So this got 4.5 stars from me. And I had a complete change of pace throughout this readathon, so the next book I read was The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This was an absolutely beautiful read. This is a verse novel, and I absolutely loved it. This is about a black guy who is kind of going off to university in Brighton, and it's just about him growing up. It starts at the start of his life and then kind of carries on, and it's about him discovering drag and just finding himself in all different ways and finding his identity. There is a lot of important discussions in this book about race and gender and sexuality. I would highly recommend it, and it's also just an absolutely beautiful read, and there is some really, really nice kind of mixed media in here and also drawings and things like that. So here's one of them. I'm just trying to find some examples for you because it's absolutely beautiful the way this is just sat out on the page. There's some really lovely pages. So this one got 5 out of 5 stars from me. And the next one I read was Shadow of the Batgirl. I really enjoyed this book. This is about Cassandra Cain. So this is about her finding out about herself. There is a lovely group of women in this book which I absolutely loved, and they are like her fairy godmothers, and I really enjoyed that about the kind of female friendships. So this one was a really enjoyable read and also has some beautiful artwork with some amazing colour. Like, I absolutely love the colours in this book. They're just so vibrant and so beautiful. But yeah, I also love the fact that this was set in a library. I'm trying to find a kind of page that actually really shows an overview of the library, because there was some just absolutely beautiful spreads in here that covered the library. So here's one that just has like stacks of books everywhere, which I absolutely adored. I really liked Cassandra as a protagonist as well, so I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And the next one I read was The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender. This was a very, very strange read. I didn't know what to expect going into it, but I'd heard really good things about it. I'd heard that the writing is beautiful, and it was beautiful, but this was just very, very odd. This is kind of a historical magical realism book, but there is a very disturbing scene that happens quite late on in the book that you don't really expect, and it becomes quite graphic quite quickly. This one just really wasn't for me. I did enjoy the writing, and I enjoyed some very small aspects about it, like there was a bakery that I absolutely loved. Other than that, it just really let me down. It became quite a strange and disturbing novel at the end of the day, an experience, so I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. And then going from a 2-star book to a 5-star book, I read An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. Again, I had no idea what to expect from this one, but I absolutely fell in love with it. This is a very difficult one to describe, but it is about a girl who finds a statue in the middle of New York City at 3 AM and calls her friend, and they create a YouTube video about it, because her friend makes YouTube videos and podcasts and things like that. And then they end up kind of becoming famous because of it, because it goes viral, and finding out all about these statues, and it basically explores these statues, and there's a lot of talk of fame, and there's like extraterrestrial stuff, and I just absolutely loved it. It was such a unique read, and I can't wait to carry on with the series, so this got 5 out of 5 stars from me. And the next one I read was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. This actually has both Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass in it, but I did read Alice in Wonderland first as part of the Bookathon, and then carried on with this version, which has both of them in, because I have a little Wordsworth classic that only has the first book in, and then I carried on read Through the Looking Glass in this version. This was an absolutely wacky story. I knew it was going to be wacky, but it was highly, highly entertaining, and I'm glad I finally read it, so that got 4 out of 5 stars from me. I would definitely recommend this beautiful illustrated slipcase version, because this has the full colour illustrations in, which are just a beautiful thing to have and to read alongside of. So that's what the illustrations kind of look like. My Wordsworth edition does have the illustrations, but they're in black and white, so it was really nice to read this version. And the next one I read was a manga, and this is the first volume of the Fangirl Manga. So this is a weird one for me, just because I already know the story, so it was quite a hard thing to judge. I ended up giving this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it, but I am worried about where the story will go and whether I'm going to see it differently when I kind of carry on with these volumes. But I did feel like it fit the manga style quite well, and I will carry on reading these ones. So that got 3.5 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read was another graphic novel, and that was Runaways by Rainbow Rowell. and Chris Anker. This was an interesting one for me. This is basically a get the band back together kind of story. The Runaways was a series in the early 2000s, and this is kind of Rainbow Rowell's revival of it. I think this is a collection of the first 6 comics in the series. It is still going at the moment and they are still publishing these kind of collections. I really did enjoy the story, and I felt like Rainbow did bring back the characters quite well, and I wasn't confused about who was who or where this was going, but I kind of felt like I was missing something by not knowing their story from the early 2000s series. But I did enjoy this. I will be carrying on with this one. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. It weirdly kind of reminded me of Scooby-Doo just because of like the gang, and I felt like they could definitely be driving around the Mystery Machine. And the next one I read was Wilder Girls by Rory Power. I really wasn't sure what to expect from this one other than the fact that it had a virus in it, so I was a little bit hesitant because of the current situation of the world. I ended up really enjoying this. It's a very, very gruesome horror. I would definitely warn you if you're going into this. There is a lot of content warnings that are available on Rory's website, but I did really enjoy it. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. For some reason I was in the mood to read a horror. I'm not really a massive horror fan, but I will definitely be reading more of Rory's books, and I love the idea of feminist horror because this is based around women and kind of female friendships and relationships, and I really love that about this book. And the last book I read in March, we are actually nearly there, and that was Pride. I really enjoyed this one, even though I've never read Pride and Prejudice. I did enjoy reading a retelling of it. I would like to read this one after I've read the original story and just see kind of how it compares and how it is exactly inspired by the story, but this was really, really interesting. So I did finish this one yesterday, so I finished this one on the 1st of April, but I am counting it because I read the majority of it in March. This is about a black girl who is living in Bushwick, which is in Brooklyn in New York, and there is a lot of talk of pride of your neighbourhood and your family and your friendships and your race and your heritage. And I really thought this was amazingly written. I liked the relationships in it. I liked a lot of the discussions of culture and race in this book. I felt this one was really well done. I wasn't rooting for the characters all the time, and some of this just did miss the mark a little bit for me, and I think part of that is because it is quite a short contemporary and there were some things that either felt a little rushed or needed to be fleshed out a little bit more. But I did enjoy this, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. So we have made it to the end of the 16 books I read in March. Thank you so much for sticking with me for this very long and slightly chaotic wrap up. But yeah, I'm really happy with how my March reading went. I have no idea whether I can do anything close to this in April, but I'm starting the month off strong with taking part in a readathon. So let's see, let's hope that I can start off and have another good reading month. I don't need to read 16 books every month. I'm fine with not reading that many, but I am happy with how many I managed to get through in March. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Please drop it a like and comment down below with what you read in March and how many books you managed to read, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more like this. See you next time!